Relationship advice. Update: the guy my 18 male, mom, 39 female, is dating, is acting really creepy towards my sister, 20 female. This has caused my mom to act weirdly jealous towards my sister. What can we do to make my sister feel safer and make him stop creeping on her, and for our mom to stop acting this way towards her? Original post. Okay, so this is one big overall issue, but it's actually two different problems that are directly linked. A. This guy acting really creepy towards my sister. B. My mom acting jealous towards my sister, I think, as a result. A bit of background. My sister was conceived when my parents were still pretty young, 18, and they got married as a result. I always used to tease my sister back when I was a horrible kid, about how she was the accident and I was the plan one. After they got married, they had a son, me. Alas, their marriage was not meant to last, and while I think they did truly come to love each other and care for each other through the sharing of two kids, they were ultimately two different people who wanted two different things from life. My mom wanted to settle down in classic suburbia and have a classic life. My dad was more of an adventurer, into traveling across the world and skydiving and whatnot. They got divorced while we were quite young, and while it was difficult initially for the pair of us to understand, we never felt unloved, and our dad was always there in our lives. He was never neglectful or anything. While our mother was our primary custodian, our dad used to come by quite often and help about. So, while they were divorced, they still had a pretty good relationship. Sometimes it was almost like they were dating, and I think they did enjoy each other's company, but ultimately, they were two very different people to be tied down to one another permanently. Anyhow, so my mom's dating this guy. I think he's about the same age as my mom, more or less, that she's actually known for quite some time as an acquaintance. She knows him from work, but they've never been that close and started dating not that long ago, maybe around Christmas last year. Anyhow, she seems quite infatuated with him, but from the start something seemed weird about him. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie American Psycho, but my sister and I love that movie, and we both think this guy is pretty much Patrick Bateman. Outwardly, he's the perfect, chiseled, accomplished business guy. He's charming, polite, almost too charming. As a son, I might just be naturally suspicious because he's dating my mom, but he always gave me this serial killery vibe right from the start. Not saying he's a serial ender, but let's just say it wouldn't be the biggest surprise if I found out he was. Something just seems unnatural about him, like almost everything he does, wears, says, is fake, and is perfectly calculated to give off the image he wants of himself. I suppose that's how you have to be to succeed in the business world. But I never liked him. He never struck me as a genuine person. Anyhow, my mom seemed to be quite infatuated with him, and she seemed really happy with him from the start. He expressed affection to her quite often, and I think she really appreciated that. It made her feel youthful if I had to guess. Now to get to the root of the issue, this guy started doing some seriously creepy stuff towards my sister. At first, we didn't say anything, but only my sister and I noticed. The biggest one was one morning when we were all having breakfast at the table. He was there sitting across from me having his cereal, and my sister was bending over to pick up something, and I saw him look like right at her butt crack, and then he looked at me and smiled and nodded his head towards her like, eh? Giving off a super creepy smile. My mind was thinking like, what the F? But I just ignored it because I didn't want to make a scene or anything. I told my sister about it as soon as I had the chance, and she agreed he was really creepy. She told me sometimes she feels him staring at her, especially from behind. She told me of a bunch of times he made her feel really uncomfortable. Like one time she was brushing her hair in the bathroom and he just came up behind her and put his hands on her shoulder and started having a long conversation with her, which included telling her how nice she smelled. She told me she'd never felt more uncomfortable in her life. She said sometimes when she's sitting on the couch watching a movie or TV, he'd come and sit by her and edge closer and put his arm around her, and she'd feel really uncomfortable. This was in addition to all the times she caught him trying to sneak glances at her. I also started noticing this, like at the breakfast table, when she was walking past or whatever, he'd start taking quick glances at her from the corner of his eye. Sometimes when my sister and I are up in her bedroom and watching something on her laptop together, or listening to music together, he'd come up and be like, "Hey kids, what are you up to?" And just sit beside her and put his arm around her, and watch whatever we're watching, and like not leave at all. Sometimes I feel like he acts super extra nice to her, more than to me or my mom. He's way more touchy with her, and tries to sit as close to her as he can, taking glances and peeks here and there. Needless to say, we both felt very uncomfortable. My first suggestion is that we have to tell Mom about this. My sister insisted no, she wouldn't understand, she'd get mad at us for suggesting, we can't tell her. I insisted she has to know that this dude was creeping on her daughter, and eventually my sister relented and she agreed. We went and told our mom, but she just laughed it off and told us we were being paranoid, and ignored the whole thing. He seems to really have her under his spell. However, this is where the second problem began. We both noticed right after we told her this, and we think she started becoming more aware of the way he was acting, a weird change in our mother's behavior. First of all, she started acting almost more possessive of her boyfriend, almost like she was trying to claim him. Not sure what other words to use, but that's what it seemed like to me. She would suddenly be much more affectionate to him when he was around, like trying to kiss him more often, giving him hugs, being more cuddly with him and smiling around him, calling him more pet names. Almost like she was trying to mark her territory and show that he was hers and she was his. It's crazy to think, but I think it's because she was starting to feel almost jealous or threatened by her daughter. She was scared of the fact that he might be more interested in her daughter than in her. I personally think she was becoming more aware of him acting creepy around my sister, and taking stares and glances at her, which is what made her more nervous. She was being more lovey around him, trying to bring him closer to her. They started going to bed early, if you know what I mean, and sometimes being disturbingly loud in the bedroom, though not that often, thank heavens. The other thing is, she started acting jealous towards my sister, and like policing her behavior and dress. For example, she started telling my sister off if her pajamas or nightwear or whatever were too revealing, especially if it was a night that her boyfriend was staying the night at our place. And she started insisting that my sister wear a bra at home, which really annoyed my sister for some reason. She was like, no way, I never wear a bra at home, cause normally she just wears a loose gray jumper or a loose gray shirt when she's at home, that isn't even remotely revealing or anything. My mom said it's inappropriate that she doesn't wear something under her clothes, and she was also like, you're grown up now, you need to wear one. But my sister said it was uncomfortable to wear one all the time and sleep in one, and she liked to relax when she's at home and not have to worry about that. But now it seems that our mom was making her worry about that. She was also policing other things she wore, like ordinary clothes, and told her not wear a towel around the house when she comes out of the shower. She was like, WTFY? And my mom was like, we have two males in this house, your brother and my boyfriend, it's inappropriate, which is weird as hell, given that I'd lived in this house with them all my life and she'd never had a problem with it before. Also, when like my sister comes and bends over the couch to see what I'm doing, my mom would be like, dear, stand properly, or sit properly, that's not very ladylike. Sometimes she'd do it even on nights when her boyfriend wasn't around, but it was mostly when her boyfriend was around, which indicated that the boyfriend was the real reason she was acting more policey and insecure. Sometimes the boyfriend wouldn't even be in the vicinity, like, my sister and I would be upstairs in her bedroom watching something, and my mom would come in and check on us and see what we're doing, then she'd be like, sweetie, I told you to wear a bra more often. Needless to say, it's been annoying the hell out of my sister. She's been getting massively annoyed and distressed by the whole thing. It's bad enough to have this total creep on her all the time he's over, but now her own mother is clamping down on her and acting like a jealous, insecure teenage girl towards her own daughter. I can't even begin to imagine how much it's bothering her. She's talked to me a lot about it, and she's told me how sick she is of all of it, and how sick she is of living in this house. She told me she feels like she's not even safe in her own home anymore, she feels like she's being watched constantly, and she hates being alone with this guy. We tried telling our mother about it already, but she brushed it off. My sister suggested we go live with our dad instead since we're both adults, but I told her I don't think it would be too conducive to his lifestyle. He seems to like living on his own and having two teenage brats in the way would hamper that. I told her nevertheless, we should tell him about what's going on, and maybe he can help. She immediately insisted no, we shouldn't tell him, we shouldn't involve him in this. I tried to reason and convince her, but she was totally against telling Dad. Now this is the part where I feel bad, especially since I might show this post and the replies to her later. Sorry sis, but I did tell Dad. I had to. Sorry, really sorry. I made my dad promise to not let her know that I'd told him, but he gave me advice and told me to watch out for this guy. He told us to keep our distance, and when the time was right, he might have a chat with our mother about it. He also told me if I ever see him put one inappropriate hand on his daughter in an inappropriate place or anything, or try to make a move on her or anything, that I immediately tell him. He was like he knows these sorts of guys, Guys who think they can easily prey on young and naive girls who are still too scared to properly stick up for themselves. I told my dad about my sister wanting to move in with him. He was like, maybe for one of us, but not both, at least not permanently. I told my sister about that. She was like, she didn't want to leave me alone here. She thought if we move out, we should both move out together, and she felt safer having me around anyway. I told her I'd be fine on my own, but she was quite insistent. She suggested maybe looking for a place where we could both move out to and rent together, but I was like, nah, I'm not too interested in that. I kinda like living at home with mom. It's comfy as hell and I have someone to look after me. She tried insisting. She seemed to think it was the only solution to getting out of this environment, but I said I'd consider it, but honestly, I'm not keen on moving out at all. I have nothing against her moving out if she wants to though, but she seems pretty keen that I move out too. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Both you and your sister need to get angry and confrontational. There is zero reason to tiptoe around this guy and be polite about it. If your instincts are correct, he is a predator and deserves nothing from either one of you. Unfortunately, you cannot make either your mother or him do or feel anything. That doesn't mean you have to passively accept his actions at all. The next time you see one little thing from him, call him out on it loudly and immediately. What are you looking at? Stop staring at my sister's butt. Get your hand off her. Back off. She obviously doesn't like it. Your sister should speak up as well. Both of you should be loud and unafraid of creating a scene. Of course he will deny, excuse, or minimize his behavior. Repeat that you don't like it, loudly. Next, he will turn your mother against you. If she tries to put the blame on you, again, both of you should call her out and point out her warped priorities. If anything happens, an action or a statement, that makes you or your sister feel unsafe, call the police. Make a big deal about it. Your mother has invited a predator into your home. Neither of you need to tolerate him, put up or shut up, or any such thing. You feel bad for your teasing when you were an oblivious child. Now is your chance to make up for that in a big way. Stand up for your sister. And please don't call yourselves bratty teenagers. You are young adults, and your parents should love you and be proud of you. Instead, both have effectively abandoned you. If I were your dad, I'd have gone ballistic by now. I especially agree with your last paragraph. Everyone here is saying that OP is abandoning his sister, and no one seems to notice that the dad was as washing his hands off his own children. I mean, telling OP to basically come to him if anything serious happens? WTF? And telling him that having them both move in with him would be a discomfort to his life? When his kids live with a creepy a-hole they feel uncomfortable around. As a parent, that sounds so crazy. OP, sure, it'd be nice if you could go live with your sister, but I understand why you aren't too keen on that so far. Especially since being young and a guy, you might not see how terrible it is every day for your sister. But at least you're doing something and acknowledging the situation, which is more than what both your parents did. Seriously though, give moving out a second thought. It can really be a fun and positive experience, that you will need sooner or later. Okay, I don't see this outlined in the comments yet, so I want to make it 100% clear what this guy is doing. He is testing how much he can get away with. He is double checking that neither you, your sister, or your mom will speak up when he does something wrong. The creepy nod towards your sister's behind? He was not seeing if you also find your sister hot. He was making sure you know he thinks that, and that you won't do anything about it. The hand on your sister's shoulder? He's getting her used to him being creepy. He's checking that she won't assert herself and tell him to stop. The alienation from your mother? He's setting the groundwork so that when he does violate your sister, your mother will blame your sister for trying to steal her boyfriend instead of blaming him for the offense. He is testing the waters to make sure this is a situation in which he will be able to get away with the violation. He's established that you, your mom, and your sister will not stop him. He is a predator, and predators don't make a move until they're sure they can do it without getting in trouble. I 100% guarantee you that this man is going to escalate his behavior. He is going to rely on your sister's fear of making a commotion to get away with it. Your sister is in immediate danger, and the danger is getting worse every time nobody stands up to him. Your mother is supposed to protect and care for her daughter. That's literally what a parent does. Instead, she is insecure and ignores the huge predatory signs this guy is showing. You should run a thorough background check on the boyfriend. Not saying he will have anything on there, and not saying that he is a predator, but it sounds like a possibility. Never let your sister be alone with him. I'm not sure if there's anything you can do about your mom though. It's really sad and it's really gotten to my sister. I think a large part of it is, she feels she's being attacked from two fronts and she's been betrayed by her mother. I really feel for her and I can't imagine what that must be like. And now for the update. Well, it's a month since my first post, and the guy's gone thankfully. However, my sister and I still moved out, for a number of reasons. It all came to a head a few weeks ago when my mom was out of the house, and her boyfriend was hanging about the house. I was in my room and I heard my sister scream. It came from the bathroom. She was freaking out, saying he was hitting on her and touching her / trying to touch her, and she had told him to stop and he wouldn't back off, so she screamed at the top of her lungs for me to come. He was denying everything, saying she was making it all up, saying she was overreacting. I told him he had to leave the house immediately or I was calling the police. He wouldn't, and I basically pushed him out while my sister called our dad. When he heard her calling our dad, he finally left the house, still insisting we were the crazy ones and he had done nothing. I reassured my sister. She was in a very shocked state. My dad came over and we comforted her and helped her feel better. He called mom and she came back and we all explained the situation to her. That was the last time we ever saw mom's creepy boyfriend. He broke up with her shortly afterwards. I don't know why, but I guess after that situation, he didn't want to come back ever and had no interest in our mom. I'm really scared that he was maybe just pursuing our mother to get close to sis the entire time, and had no real intentions for our mother. My sister was kind of traumatized by the whole ordeal, and I convinced our dad to sleep with us for a few nights at our place just to be safe and so my sister could feel safe. Naturally, mom was upset by how everything turned, but we convinced her it was for the better that he was gone. And we finally got her to accept and admit he was a creep all along and should never have been allowed in our house. Unfortunately, family problems didn't end there. My sister was way on edge for the next week, way more cranky and irritable than usual. I didn't blame her. She still wanted to move out. She said she hated living at home after everything that happened. She didn't feel safe. I told her the dude wasn't coming back, but she still wanted me to move out with her. She said stuff like, "You don't really love me." "I knew it. I don't love you either." Stuff like that, which was clearly attempting to guilt me and which I felt was extremely childish and immature. Unfortunately, our mom wasn't too helpful either. A couple of weeks later, she was already dating a completely new boyfriend. We didn't see much of this one, but from what I did see here and there, he seems nice enough and not too creepy. Unfortunately, mom started acting the same way again, telling my sister her clothing is too revealing, telling her to wear a bra, telling her to cover up in her own home, even when it was just the three of us around. I agreed to move out with my sister, and I talked the whole situation over with both our parents and told them of our plan. My sister and I would borrow some money from mom and some from dad, both of which we intended to pay back in full as soon as we could. We stayed a couple of days at dad's place, and from there we moved out into our own small place. It's small, sure, but pretty good considering it's within our affordability range. Things are going good so far, and we're moving forward. Now for the closing comments. Just one input: the reason why your sis would not feel safe at home anymore even after the creep was gone, was because your mother is unsafe for her. I think you did the best that was in your power. I am really glad you two got to a place where you can maintain a greater distance to your mother and therefore feel more safe. I'm sorry, but your mother is just beyond awful. That man tried to touch her daughter and she still blames her instead of him. I would want to never speak to her again. Zero motherly instincts. Zero desire to protect her kids. Parents who turn the other cheek or blame their children for situations like this are the most disgusting scum of the earth. The only upside here is that OP's sister is out of her formative years and has him, so that maybe she is strong enough to not let the trauma destroy her life completely. I'm a big fan of the show Intervention, and I can't tell you how many beautiful, vibrant, happy people fall into the pit of depression and addiction after being violated, and a parent not believing them. I just finished a true crime show called The Hunt, that followed the stories of multiple children/people who were art and murdered, after their parents failed to protect them from a predator. How dare a parent treat a child like OP's mom is treating her daughter? The rage inside of me just thinking about it, can only be the tiniest fraction of the betrayal OP's sister must feel. I hope she finds peace and knows none of this is her fault. I'm really glad you're there to look out for your sister and you have her back, no questions asked. I have a brother 2 years younger than me and he's never shown me that kind of loyalty or protectiveness. You're a good person and I hope your sister is happier now. Your mother sounds like she'll end up very unhappy in the long run if she keeps taking her own insecurities out on the people closest to her. Good luck with everything, both of you. And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day everyone.